Hello, everybody. This is a meeting of the Finance Committee. It is, there you are. It is 6:30, and we have the Finance Committee is here, Councilor Jordan, Councilor Sullivan, Councilor Devine, Councilor Givner, and Councilor Ocasio. I'd like to take a motion to take up item number 1.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Any problems with the minutes, anybody?
Motion to approve. Second.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, and then item number 2, Murphy Ramboletti, order that the police department be allowed to hire a crime analyst past the grade 10 mid-range, which is $70,407 to $78,000, and this was referred to our committee. So Chief and Ms. Diaz, if you want to come in, whatever seat you guys want to take is good. Oh, you can sit together. All right, so welcome. And we do have, like I said, we have the order from Murphy Ramboletti. This is already in ordinance. That's where it originally went, and we felt that having a discussion in finance was a good idea to get all the questions asked, because ordinance can be fairly busy, and we're not sure when he might take this up. So that's why we're taking it up tonight. So whoever's, Chief, if you want to speak first, or Ms. Diaz, whatever is easier.
Good evening, councilors. How are you?
Good evening.
I'm here to speak in support of Ms. Diaz and raising her salary to the $78,000 that she was agreed to. A little bit about Ms. Diaz. She came here from the city of Springfield believing she was going to be paid an amount of money, and she hasn't received it. Despite not receiving the agreed upon salary, she's done an outstanding job. Since I took helm of the police department on January 6th, she's been an asset to us, and through her work and her help, we've been able to reduce overtime costs somewhere around $30,000 per pay period from the 50 or 60 that the previous chiefs had. And that's due to data-driven policing. That's down to getting detectives going to where they're supposed to, and counting things. And Ms. Diaz has done this despite not being paid what she was agreed to pay. She's had a very can-do attitude, worked very hard for the police department, and she's been well received in there. What she does with crime analysis, she streamlines investigations because detectives can call her and have addresses researched, can have license plate research, can look for social media links, which saves hours and hours and hours of detective time doing that stuff. And it increases efficiency and saves on all sorts of administrative work for the supervisors. They don't have to look for patterns as much. They don't have to spend as much time analyzing data because, quite frankly, we don't have the manpower to do it. I want my detectives out being detectives. I don't want them sitting behind books looking at stuff all day long. And I want detective supervisors supervising detectives and managing budgets and doing things that are going to be efficient. And also, grant funding and compliance, which is a significant part of how we fund the police department, is Ms. Diaz's efforts in keeping those statistics and those things help us to stay in compliance with grants and to get grants. It's a win-win for the police department because without someone with Ms. Diaz's skills and qualifications, I'm going to be forced to put a police supervisor there, which I don't have. Quite candidly, if I have to come asking you for a sergeant, I'm going to be looking for $130,000. And I'll have to get it, and I'll have a difficult time backfilling that position. And also, she comes with a wealth of experience from the Crime Tech in Springfield, the Crime Analysis Center in Springfield. And there's not a lot of people out there, so if we were to get someone off the street at the entry-level position, it's going to cost us tens of thousands of dollars in training, tens of thousands of hours in time in training and learning and coaching and mentoring and developing that, quite candidly, we don't have. I have 3 detective supervisors right now, and they're busy supervising detectives and running around. And if they have to train an analyst, it's more time we don't have on the street to solve cases. And in the days of limited resources, and I think I spoke with most members of the council about this, I want people that can make arrests out in the street making arrests, and I want to civilianize as many positions as I possibly can. And with recruiting and retention being what it is in law enforcement today, this is a win-win for the city. And we certainly have the money in our budget to fund this position. It's not a stretch. It's not a reach. It's not going to affect boots on the ground in any capacity. So I'm just here to ask for your support. I wholly support adjusting the salary to what the agreed-on salary was. And moving forward and continuing to work with Mr. Diaz in a professional capacity to move the city forward. Thank you.
And that certainly was, I know we all had that question about it being in the budget already, and so that's good. And I just wanted to say before I open it up for questions that, Ms. Diaz, you certainly come well qualified. I'm looking at your resume and your experience, and we're lucky to have you, and I want to make sure that we get to keep you.
Thank you, I
Okay?
appreciate that.
So, Counselor Jordan.
Okay, thank you, Chief, and thank you, Ms. Diaz, for coming in. The concerns, just to go back, just so we level set here as to how we got to where we got. When we passed the fiscal year 25 budget, I, of course, voted no, as I have both of the last three budgets, and because they just continue to draw on more and more and more tax increases on the residents, well beyond any amount that's sustainable. We have, again, this year, set a new record for tax increases, 6.2%, which the citizens are just staggered, quite frankly, by the depth of the increase. They've never seen these type of increases. And the largesse of Holyoke government continues to grow and grow and grow. And last year was 5%. That was one of the prior records. So when we had the budget came in, a motion was made to eliminate this position completely from the budget to zero, okay? 6 people voted to make it zero. But 7 people voted with the mayor's recommendation to make it $70,000. This was well known, it was well discussed. We had a budget hearing for the police department. It was well discussed that that is how much was appropriated for the job. So some point date in the future, Ms. Diaz was then sent a letter, we're offering you $78,000. At no time in the budget was there ever $78,000. And by the way, we have an ordinance that actually precludes her, which is why this is all coming to a head now, precludes her from receiving $78,000 because it exceeds the mid-range for the starting of the position. So we have multiple fall downs in the process that, one, there was never budgeted this type of money. No one should have ever offered her $78,000. Number two, there was no legal compliance to allow someone to be paid $78,000. The job, I think, max is at mid-range at $74,07. Okay, 78 isn't $74,07. So I forget what the top pay is, but 80, 82. So of course, if you have someone here now at 78, it does ultimately beg the question, not particularly relevant for right now, but I will ask, where are you ever going to get increases from, right? Because now if you start off at 78 and the top salary pay is 82, at some point you're going to get capped pretty quickly with the COLA increase. The thing that I'm concerned about in the reservation that I have is anytime we're going to increase a new position, in my view, okay, as someone who is for fiscal austerity around here, and by fiscal austerity, I don't mean 0%. I simply mean get us back to the spirit of what the taxpayers voted in Proposition 2.5, which is that basically we have taxes going up at 2.5%, 3%, a reasonable cost of living adjustment for our employees to have raises and the cost of government that there is inflation. So what I'm concerned about is, before I'll vote to increase and create any other new jobs, is there's got to be either a commitment that we're going to have only increases of 2.5%, 3%. I don't know if you're prepared to make that commitment. Number two is it has to be level, it has to be budget neutral. Are you eliminating some other job because you want to redeploy police services in some tangible way so that you felt that it's more efficient to have this job than another job? So we take the money from that job and put it into this job. That's a redeployment of services. It cannot continue to be add more jobs, because nice people will come in like our new police chief and say all the wonderful things you could do if you were given all these more positions, and every department could say that. We could just have nonstop addition of new positions here, right? The problem is taxpayers they're worried about keeping their jobs. They're worried about paying their property taxes And they need to be remembered. It isn't a bottomless pit of money. And so I don't know, is there a commitment by the police department to eliminate some other job to fill and use it for this job? I don't know where are we going with, or this is just another new job. She's a nice person. She was a hard worker, which is all true. And we're just adding another job. Is that basically where we're at?
No, Councilman, I appreciate everything you said, and I understand the tax burden on the people, and I get that, right? Policing is evolving. It's evolving very, very quickly. If I can get my 95 officers, which I'd do a backflip to do, I'd be thrilled. Realistically, I'll probably never quite be there. So there will be a little bit of money there. There will be something there, you know? And we're close. I mean, we could get it this year, but there's always retirements, there's always vacancies. I'm crushed with military, I'm crushed with injuries, I'm crushed with people that aren't here. So the money is there. And I don't want to come asking you for a sergeant to do this job when I get a civilian to do it. And I don't want to take someone who can make arrests and have them be in the back. We're doing a great job of getting everybody who can make arrests out on the street, and we're adopting that can-do attitude at the HPD and getting things done. But like, the behind-the-scenes stuff is what's going to make that happen. And I can't, without paying people what it is. That same job's advertised in Chicopee at $15,000 a year more right now. So we got to be somewhere in the marketplace, or we're not going to have people. I'm going to be coming and saying, Counselor, I can't count gunfire. I can't count this. I don't even want to do it, or I'm going to be paying the worst thing ever, a supervisor at an overtime rate. Now, I've cut that overtime by around $20,000 per pay period when people said it couldn't be done, and I've done it in 2 months. I need help. I can't do it without assets.
Okay, Counselor, there's other counselors that want.
Yep.
Counselor Givner, I also want to welcome Counselor Israel Rivera. Counselor Givner, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can also appreciate that should probably not have offered what we couldn't offer, but it was offered. We have a really great candidate here who's been doing the job. And I visited, and I've been incredibly impressed with the amount of data that's finally being analyzed. We just talked about approving ShotSpotter funding again. What's the point of approving that if we don't have anybody to analyze the data? And I've also hearing that $30,000 was saved already from data gathered from just Ms. Diaz's position alone. And I'm also hearing from the chief that $20,000 a month is being slashed in savings as well. So I'm not seeing where the problem is of upping the amount for this position. I also feel like we haven't had a crime analyst. I don't know when we've ever had a crime analyst, quite frankly. So to have something in the ordinances talking about what we can hire, maybe we should have did a little more due diligence to make sure that we were being competitive at the time. So, hindsight's 20/20. We can all, agree that we probably didn't go about this the best way, but we're here now, and we have the people we need, and I don't see this as just some extra body in the police department or on the payroll. It's bringing a lot of value to our city, helping us understand all the information that's being collected. And again, what's the point of collecting all this information if we can't, we have a tendency as a body to ask for reports and spreadsheets, and we want to know very specifically where things are spent, where we're saving. We want to know how much ShotSpotter has figured out or not figured out. We want to know what the hot spots in the city are. And we expect you to come in front of us and, show us where the money's going. And now we have a way for someone to come in front of us and show us where the money's going. And we are, I think we just need to, suck it up and move it forward because it's the right thing to do. Our city needs it. It saves the city money, and that's what it's all about. Thank you.
I certainly agree with that. Counselor Sullivan or Ocasio, do you have any questions or concerns?
Yeah. Can I get back on the list?
Yes, if we'd like to
Well,
move
once
it
it-
along
once there's a-
too as well. Go ahead.
Chief, when you say a pay period, is that 2 weeks or a month?
2 weeks.
Okay. So if we're saving 20,000 per pay period right now,
Yeah.
500,000 a year in overtime?
280 is what we're hoping to. 280 is the goal. 250, 280. We've been fortunate too, where we haven't had a homicide, but we've cut a ton.
Yeah.
We've cut an absolute ton, and data allows me to do that.
Okay. And what was approved, what was in the budget for this position was 70,407?
I believe so. This was before I got here.
Yeah.
So
before you-
what we're talking about is really an extra 7,500. Is he,
Okay. Personnel director's here. Do you want her to, she said she can speak
sure.
about it. Kelly
Motion to
Curran.
suspend our rules to allow the
Yeah.
personnel director to speak.
Second.
Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Hello?
There you go.
Okay, here we go. So, yeah, I believe 70 was approved, but they couldn't find any candidates that were qualified. So I believe they interviewed Raina in August. And I had, I think it was Lieutenant Sotoloto reached out to me and said, hey, can we offer Raina 78? And I looked at her resume, I emailed the auditor and I said, can we offer the crime analyst 78? And because it was so late in the fiscal year, she said yes. So because we had an amazing candidate, and my practice when I was at the school department was we were able to give within the range, which I admitted to everybody that I made an error and forgot about the mid issue with the ordinance. And so I allowed Raina to get the offer letter, and that's why there's enough money in the budget to pay her the 78 this year.
Okay. Thank you, Kelly. Counselor Ocasio, do you have any questions? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, you were still talking, sorry.
I'm just still a little confused. Is there enough money in the budget? Oh, the only thing in the budget was for 70,407.
But the offer was given
You got to go to the microphone. Yeah.
The offer was given in August for a September start date, so that would have allowed her to receive 78 for that year, like for the salary to be 78 because there was money available.
Okay. So that's there right now. There's no transfer necessary?
No
No.
transfers needed for this year, no.
Okay. That's all my questions.
Thank you. Sorry, Mike. Counselor, do you have any questions?
No, I really don't have. I really don't have a question for Ms. Diaz, but I did meet with Ms. Diaz and the chief of police. He invited me over to the Holyoke Police Department to meet Ms. Diaz, and if I had any concerns or any questions, so she can answer them, which I did have concerns and questions, and she did answer every last one of them. And I'm gonna be honest that since she been aboard, I have seen the police department respond faster than before. The residents in my ward, they noticed that because now they call and they respond quicker, which before it was like call and you're like, psh, but I'm sorry that they hired you, with the wrong salary. But so far she's proven that she's doing an amazing job, and I'm always in the street, I know the ups and downs of Holyoke, so I walk the beat. So, and I have seen more police presence faster and literally in the community, which I never saw before. So, but that's it.
Counselor Rivera?
Thank you to both the chief and Raina too as well for being here. I also support the position, and I would say the increase. It's unfortunate that this is how it went down and how the situation broke down. But I think that it's vital for us in the long term, if we're really working on trying to improve public safety in the city of Holyoke, to have a crime analyst and to kind of like support the work behind it. Data, although it can be skewed in different directions, is important when it's a driver in the guidance of what we're trying to do when we're trying to improve public safety in the community of Holyoke. I think the only concern for me and for the chief is, and this is my own thing with regards to there's more things continuing. This I agree with and I support, but there's more stuff continuously being added to the budget. So I kind of side with Councilor Jourdain with regards to the government in the city, or at least the police part, and some of the other departments are getting a little bigger, and how do we manage on controlling the growth, especially around the way the climate is with regards to funding and how things are working. So I think that's important to have that conversation in the future as to how do we address the significant battles that we're going to face with growth in our police or public safety departments. And if for some reason we have to pivot and fund some more stuff in education because all of a sudden we don't have funding for that, how do we deal with that? I think that's the only concern for me. But I agree with the criminal analyst position. I thought 70 was too low in the beginning anyways, but yeah, just wanted to kind of point some of that out. Thank you.
Counselor Jordan, you have another question?
Chief, it would be helpful to memorialize certain things like if you could produce a report for us about the $20,000 a pay, $20,000 a pay period, which would be 520,000.
Yeah, I'm off with
Perhaps you mean 10,000
Yeah,
a pay
10,
period.
10
yeah.
a week, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. But even that is good,
Yeah.
So to your credit, if that's actually happening and is going to continue, that's awesome. So great job. Which is one of the reasons I've been one of your strongest supporters here. As far as the $30,000 that she's saving to pay for her position, memorialize all this in a report. When we go to do the budget, this is what I'm talking about when I'm saying we have to have offsets, all right? It isn't a bottomless pit. I mean, we have to get this government to a point where it can function like the rest of the world on a budget, right? A real budget. Families don't just increase 5 and 6% a year. That is not happening out in the real world. The people that are paying for all this just don't have it. So what I'm saying is we have to get to a point where it's manageable, because otherwise it just becomes Kevin's arguing against nice person, and in 2 weeks will be a different nice person from another department in this chair saying about why we need this other job. It's endless. And I've watched so many positions be added, and then you're always told, if I don't give another 2 weeks vacation and more personal time and this and that, no one will take the jobs, and we have to just give away the store. So the point is, all of this comes at a cost. And the bottom line is we have to get to a manageable point, or Holyoke will just not cease. At some point, we will be insolvent, because I'm telling you right now, there will be a correction, and we keep going right up to the levy limit, as we did again this year. And when there is a market correction on housing, where are we? There is no commercial tax base. The mall has been cut in half.
Excuse me, Counselor, do you have a question so that we?
No, I'm making a statement.
I know you are.
Right, and that's perfectly within the rules.
Go
I'm
ahead.
not required to ask
but there
questions
are other
only.
people that have questions, and just go ahead if you have questions.
All right.
These people are not, and I have another agenda item that we have to
Okay.
do.
All right. So in terms of, this is where I come down. I'm trying to look at the broad picture here. This is one position in a mosaic of overall. And I am, perhaps yelling into the woods. And at some point, the woods just maybe won't care. But of fiscal restraint, and I see where this is going, and where we had some growth due to the residential improvement, okay, I'm watching more and more and more jobs. And that was Holyoke's undoing previously. And I'm watching that creep up until a market correction. So I won't be voting for this tonight. It probably, maybe, ultimately will pass. But I will say I could be supportive of it in the future if I see an actual dial back on the overtime and these other things where these are coming. And please document that, because that shows that the police department's doing its part for fiscal restraint. Thank you.
Counselor, I can tell you that the police department is doing itself for fiscal restraint. We've shaved the overtime budget down. We've eliminated some long-standing practices. I have the sheriff's department painting the building for nothing. We're not paying for labor. We get paint. I had cops drywall, doing guys on prisoners' duty doing paint. There's a new spirit in the Holyoke Police Department, right? Policing's expensive. You want to save city, it's not cheap. Why did New York City come back? Because the cops did their job, were funded. This is what we have to do here. If you want to have a commercial tax base, we got to pay. or they'll go somewhere else, because nobody's coming someplace where they don't feel safe. And if I have to take a police lieutenant off the street to do this job, when I can pay a civilian to do it, why would I? And I understand how they grow, but I'll be very candid with you. In cities where crime has dropped, the police department budget grows and the positions grow, because you just can't, we can't police. The audit that you folks spent a ton of money on, we have to, that's a roadmap to success, but it's not inexpensive. There's still quite, that thing recommended 15 to 30 more police officers, which I know it's just not doable. I understand it's not doable, but that's what we need. We're working with 11 detectives. 11 detectives. We got 6 cars in the road. Chicopee has 10, and there's no crime over there. So, I mean, we're working hard. And if Ms. Diaz can save this, or if she says, I got rubbed the wrong way, I didn't get my money, and go somewhere else, then where am I going to find someone? So all of a sudden, I'd save $70,000 for an ordinance, but I'm pulling a guy out, and now I'm paying overtime. My overtime is killing your city. It's killing your city. And I'll be very candid with you. It's probably not a popular statement on Appleton Street, but I'll tell you, because the CBAs are off, and because the CBAs are off, the audit's not being followed. And we have to work together to do that. So we can either pay overtime, or we can get creative and add some lower priced positions. But we're not going to get everything unless we're aggressive and we do that stuff. And I was brought here as a change agent. And I plan on doing that. And I'm leaving this place better than I got it, so help me God. And what we've accomplished in the last 65 days, there's never been done in that place in 10 years. We got to keep the momentum going, and morale will be crushed if we start not paying people we're supposed to pay them. And morale's everything. It's difficult. Look at how difficult it was to get the cops. They're telling me in Councilor Costa's where they weren't seeing cops, they're sprinting to the calls now. They're out there doing it. And it's not easy. But I need the support of the council to say, I tell the cops every day, they say the city council don't like them. I say, no, you don't know the councilors. You don't know the councilors, they're your biggest supporters. But things like this are counterintuitive, because we're talking about pennies on a big budget. If I'm asking you for $150,000 for a friend to come in and be the legal counsel, I get it. But we're talking about pennies of that money that's already there. No one's losing their mortgage, no one's not getting their curb fixed, a tree's not getting planted. The money's there. Thank you.
Counselor Givner? Okay, anybody else? Okay, I'd like to, first of all, thank you very much. I'd like to hear a motion to pass this increase from $70,407 to $78,000. All those in favor? I'm going to take a roll call. Devine, yes. Jordan?
No.
Givner?
Yes.
Ocasio?
No.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Okay, so 3-2. Okay, 3-2 vote, and that will go to the city council on the 18th. Yeah, Council Rivera is the chair of ordinance. It's already in ordinance, but this was we wanted to take this vote. We wanted to get more information. So I don't want to ask Councilor Rivera when he might be having this in ordinance, but when you do, if you could let us know, that would be great. So thank you so much. But before you go, there are a couple more things. I'm not sure if you're going to do this or if Sergeant Zerhide's coming in. You're not there for it? Okay. So hopefully he'll come in.
No, he's not around tonight.
Okay. These are, just so you'll know, these are for out-of-state travel from police reserves.
Yep.
Is that something you can answer?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. We have extra money in police reserves, so we're moving it over to the out-of-state travel budget.
Motion to take up item 4?
All those in favor? Aye. This is that their transfer of fiscal year 2025, $5,000, no dollars as filed from police reserve to out-of-state travel. And,
Yes.
okay, and this is something you need to,
Yeah, that out-of-state travel budget's off and police reserves is heavy.
okay. Anybody have any questions?
Yes.
Yep.
What out-of-state travel and why is it short?
I'm not 100% sure, but we will ask for a request to move that over. And there's out-of-state travel that goes with positions, that officers go to conferences, they go to trainings. I can't speak to the specifics, but it is short, and the police reserves was heavy. That was an underfunded item, I believe, in the budget, the previous budget before I got here, Counselor.
Has there been an uptick in out-of-state travel? Historically, the city has not done much out-of-state travel, and all of a sudden tonight, we've got all these different departments. I've seen here about at least $30,000 in requests for out-of-state travel.
Okay, excuse me. Kelly, you want to get up to the mic? And Chief, just so you'll know, Sergeant Zerhard's on Zoom right now,
He's
so.
great, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
I must have heard.
So, yeah, when you ask for him, he comes in here. So, once we're done with this, you're certainly welcome to leave if you want.
Thank you.
Kelly?
So, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
So there's three of them, the DPW, the police, and the fire, each were transferring $5,000 over. They should have been packaged together.
I have item 3, 10, and 12. That's what I have to put, 3, 10, and 12 together. That's what I was told to do. But why don't we finish up with the police? I guess they're all the same, but do you have anything to add, just this
Well, if it's
particular?
the item I'm referring to, the 5,000, is it 5,000?
Yep,
Yeah, so the DPW, the police, and the fire are all transferring 5,000 to out-of-state travel.
right,
To support people, that's what the budget's for that you have, for the Tyler Technology Conference
okay.
for Munis.
Oh, all right,
So, purchasing, procurement, personnel, treasurers, auditors, all requested to go to a conference, a
right,
Munis
and
conference.
I got that,
Right.
got that information.
And that money is to go towards the out-of-state travel, because we support each of those departments with payroll, which we've recently worked also with consultants to help build efficiencies.
Okay.
We thought if we sent staff, they can start becoming independent and learning on their own, and eventually we won't need consultants in the long term to do the work.
Okay, thank you. Chief, is there anything Sergeant Zerhide's got his hand up. Go ahead, Sergeant.
Hi, no, I was just gonna back Kelly on that. We did transfer that 5,000 from our budget. It was within our budget. Munis plays a big part within our department and the citywide. So obtaining that training was necessary and prudent for us to put in for. So that's what that 5,000 for out-of-state travel was for.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
I'd like to take a motion to take 4, 8, and 11 up as a package, since that's the proposal.
Second. And also, I have a note here that are supposed to take up, Chief, we're all set if you need to go.
thank you.
Thank you so much. Good luck.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Yeah, take care now. Good seeing you.
Okay, because I had a note to combine 3, 10, and 12, and you want to combine what?
4, 8, and 11 is their request.
Okay, all right, so,
I think we're starting to get clarity. The 15 grand is to fund this proposal, to send them to this munis.
right, okay. So the motion is to take up items 4, 8, and 11. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, who wants to come in and chat? Okay. Kelly, just remember the mic, yeah, thank you.
Got it.
Okay, so item 4 is that, we just did that, so that's all set. What was the other ones? 8. Item 8 is ordered there be and hereby appropriated by transfer fiscal year 5,000 from DPW hoisting equipment operator to out-of-state travel.
Correct.
The same,
Yeah, so
okay,
each department.
just for the record, if you could.
Yep, it's the same. It's for the conference, the Tyler Technology Conference.
Okay. And that is, everybody's got this, I put it on your desk?
Yep.
In front of you? Okay, and that's what it encompasses,
And 11's the fire department's
right?
contribution.
Yep.
Okay. And it's the same thing, Kelly, the 11?
Yes.
Okay, I'll read that. Ordered that they're hereby appropriated by transfer fiscal year 2025, 5,000 as follows: firefighter line, 5,000, out-of-state travel, 5,000. And taking these all up for discussion, all those in favor? Aye. And this again is for the registration costs, the flights, the transportation to and from the airport, the hotel, and the meals. And that's approximately 15,654.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm guessing it won't be that much because people sometimes share rooms, so it'll save the cost. And
Right.
the conference provides food, so for lunches, so
Okay.
it'll be a little less.
All right. And the conference is for,
It's Tyler Technologies, it's Munis.
Munis,
Our
yeah.
Munis system, which now is ERP, it's an enterprise. We have significantly upgraded our systems and payroll specifically. I should have invited Dale because she has benefited from it. Dale's in the fire department. Something she said used to take her 3 hours, now takes her 3 minutes, and it was just by learning how to do an import into Munis the correct way. So we're building a lot of efficiencies. Our consultants have helped a lot, and they're still helping, but we hope to, in the next couple of years, be, and Rory could join because, jump in, it's a party. Rory and Jamie have also helped in the upgrade of this system too, with creating efficiencies in purchasing, and we're moving to, personnel's already non-paper, procurement's moving to non-paper, so I'm excited about that.
Hallelujah.
I know. People make fun of me because of the paper thing, but
hey,
I save money.
whatever works, right?
Right.
Okay, so I'm just trying to,
And if I could just add a little bit, I didn't go, a group went from the city 2 years ago. The schools will occasionally send some folks. If you look at the schedule, Jamie and Kelly both went. I had a staff person from my office go. The auditor, Tanya, her assistant Sharon, they went, a group of people went. I was supposed to go in at the last minute, I wasn't able to. You look at what this conference is, it starts at 7:30 in the morning on a Sunday, and it goes till like 7 o'clock at night. You're in classes all day. Monday, Tuesday, the same thing. This isn't the cocktail hour and the this and the trade show and the whatnot, because quite honestly, it wouldn't be worth our time to fly. It was Texas last time. This time, what's it, St. Louis? It's San Antonio again. It's back there again. So, and this is something where folks from all over the country go. I want to say it's like 20,000 people go to this conference. They take over like 3 large convention centers. And then the classes themselves are real hands-on. So you have to schedule, there's wait lists and everything. It's a very intense conference. And it's something that the folks came back. This was prior to our upgrade.
Yeah, it was tough when we went because it was prior to the upgrade, so we were seeing all the modules and things that we should be on because we were only on 11 and they were all the way on 21 by that time. That's how far behind we were. And so we brought back all the ideas of where we want to be, and I just feel like now that we're seeing where we are and how much further we could go, and I think they're going to force us onto cloud-based soon. So just seeing the difference in that to what we're doing now I think is important also.
And we opted not to go last year because we did not go last year because we were right in the middle of the upgrade and we had gone before and kind of learned where we wanted to be at. So it didn't make sense to even go or ask to go. We didn't want to waste the resources because we needed to go post upgrade to see where we're going.
right,
So I just did want to point out that we didn't ask to go last year because it didn't make sense.
right, okay. Go ahead, Counselor.
Yeah,
Jordan.
is this sort of like also a bit of like train the trainer style where you'll get a bunch of manuals and then this way you can educate the other employees? Or because obviously I think training like this, if it's really as intense as you talk about, is well worth it. And
Spot on.
you're getting that sort of other people that will come, which saves us money because then we don't have to send, if we train the 6 folks here, then they can train, other people on their teams with this information. And
Yeah,
is
and
that
that-
kind of how you see it playing out?
Yeah, and that's the core group in Rory also, but Rory is unable to attend this year. But that's the core group of the folks who are making the huge upgrades and the changes and doing additional work beyond our job duties. So I think, they're already invested, and this will help them learn and
Right. And this obviously helps everybody to utilize the system and, like you say, be more efficient. That saves money because it's saving time, right? And we're also doing it with more accountability and transparency because this stuff can be tracked in
Right.
Munis, which is
Yes,
what has
everything.
been the goal of
Amen.
the
Yeah.
city, right?
Yeah, and there's
Yeah.
there's hard cost savings and soft cost savings. There's efficiencies. Just one example, I know Kelly mentioned going paperless, and she mentioned payroll. You know, one data point that I can just throw out right now is the city is now, based on some changes that we made as a result of the upgrade and having the staff go through the training and be part of additional trainings, we now have paperless pay stubs, right? Which you don't really think too much about. What if I told you that's going to now save the city $10,000 annually? That's not an estimate. That's it. We were printing 1,000 pay stubs every payroll. It costs us $260 a box for that, 26 times a year, plus the ink that had to go along with that, plus
Mailing.
stubs that we had to mail out because they weren't being picked up. Right now, it's all being done. Anybody, including the council, that receives it, you can go right on your phone, pull it up, you can get all your pay stubs. And we've required, when we can, folks to go paperless. And that's one of the areas that we've been able to do it. And that's just one data point. There's many others that we're learning about along the way. It's hard to say, here's all the savings we're going to have because we're learning about new things. You know, the upgrade from, you hear numbers like 11 to 21, we hadn't truly upgraded our system for 30 years. From the time it was implemented in the late 90s under Auditor Brian Smith, all the way up until the upgrade last November, we were essentially just kind of patching and going along. So it'd be like if we were still using Windows 95 today. And then upgrading all of a sudden to Windows, you know, whatever the newest version of Windows is, you know. And we're learning so many things that we hadn't been doing the best way. We're learning about new ways to build those efficiencies, and we're learning about those, you know, true cost savings in the long run. So it's a really exciting thing to nerd out on. I'm sorry. It's
okay, 'cause-
way more exciting than I thought, but I think I've mentioned to just about everybody on the council, and I know Councilor Genevieve certainly mentioned this to you. This is, to your earlier points, this is what other communities are doing
Right.
that we are not doing. We're not using this technology to its fullest extent. Other communities are, and this conference is just one small thing. There's some other orders that we're going to talk about, but
Yeah, that's what I want to
but-
do as well.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we have, Councilor Revere, any questions or anything? Okay, so we had items 4, 8, and 11. Anybody, Mike, did you have?
Yeah, I would just like to vote on these, not as a package.
Okay.
As separate,
Separate.
and I would just like to go on,
Okay.
as a state of reason why for the
Yeah.
public and the committee.
Item 4 has already been taken care of, so we don't have to vote on that.
I don't think we
The chief
voted.
was here.
I don't think we voted on it.
Okay, then make a motion.
Motion to
vote on
approve item 4.
All those in favor? Aye. Do you need to talk on that one at all? Okay. The
Motion to
next one
approve 8.
is 8. Motion to approve number 8,
That's the one I'd like to
the
talk on.
DPW one, yeah.
So I'm not going to be in favor of this one. We've got, this conference is until May 11th. As Kelly stated, it might come in a little bit shorter anyways. It also, under budget. It also gives a little time to find some money somewhere else. The positions from DPW, heavy motor equipment operator, how many vacancies do we have right now, Kelly?
5.
5. And my reason is, I want that money to stay right there. I want it to be visible to everybody. We constantly either can't fill those positions because we are at the lowest end of the spectrum, competing very heavily in the private market, all right? And then the people that we do get in, right, they get 18 months of training, and then they're off somewhere else for $10 an hour more. All right? So we've got to do something, and if, I don't think any of us have missed the outcries on whether it's Facebook, Hello Hoyok, wherever you want to go, or just driving your own car around the city, right? We need these positions in DPW filled. We need that money to stay in that budget, and I don't want to see, if it sits there as a surplus going into next year, so be it for me, so that we can, we can't negotiate the contracts, but I want to see that money stay there so the right thing can be done with it. So,
Yeah, so I understand your position. I just
Yeah.
want to say there's overages, the auditor gave us the numbers. If we were to fill all 5 right now, there would still be $5,000 left for the remainder of the fiscal years. But I understand what you're saying, and I agree. We've lost too many CDL drivers to private companies.
or haven't been able, we can't compete
Right.
at the wages we're offering.
My question, if we don't fund this particular one, or table it, I'm not sure what to do, do you have somebody going?
I mean, I was trying to get the early bird special. We could still register with the first 5,000 approved.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, do we
If you were
deny
to,
this?
if
Do we
you
table
were-
it? What do-
If you
what
were
do you-
to pass the, depending on what the will of the body is, and I would also agree that, I think we all agree with Counselor Sullivan's sentiments. But also how we got here wasn't just like, oh, there's money there, we'll pull it.
Right.
If you were able to, there's 3 separate orders, one of them's for, each for 5. If you were to approve the 10, that would certainly give us the ability we need to be able to get things registered, book rooms, do those types of
table.
things. And then if we
Okay, wait a
came
minute.
back, whether it's a tabled or we had to ultimately come back for some additional funding from a different source, we could figure that out.
Counselor Givner?
Sorry. I was just going to say, that also those 3 sources is because we support them in Munis, like the DPW office manager, we support her with training in Munis and payroll efficiencies, and they just got a time clock that we're supporting them in learning how to use and import the data. So that's why those 3 sources were chosen.
Okay. Counselor Givner?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So if I'm understanding correctly, it's not really taking away from the DPW's budget.
No.
And also, it sounds like, once again, if we wait, we'll spend more money on this since people will need to go to this training. So if we wait, we'll be spending more than we need to send people to the same training that we could have paid for in advance for significantly less.
Potentially.
Okay, we don't know.
Well, 7 times, what is it, 11.99 or 6? Is it 6 people or 7?
6.
Times 11.99.
I'm just saying, like, I know that if you get tickets to an event,
7,200.
yeah, if you get tickets to an event and you get the early bird, it's usually almost like half the price of the full price of an event. I don't know how that is with a conference, but if it sounds like we save significantly.
250 a ticket. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and that's the current
And
rate.
it's the ticket price, and then I would also say
The flights.
The
the
flights
flights
go up,
and the
yeah.
They would
hotel
go
rooms.
higher.
Right.
Because we were late to the game 2 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and we weren't able to get the conference rate in a lot of the hotels. We had to
Gotcha.
pay more than the conference rate because of the timing, which is why we're trying to get out in front of it now.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Counselor Sullivan?
I just want to be clear. We have till May 11th, right? All I'm suggesting is,
No, I think it was March 11th. I think I have the date of the early bird deadline,
March 14th,
March 14th.
which is in
The
4
conference is
days.
May
Yep.
11th.
right. But to find the additional funding,
Right.
right, we have time.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think to
To
Counselor
come back
Givner's
with a
point.
different source for the other 5,000.
Right.
That's all I'm suggesting.
But
I'm in
even-
favor of the 15,000.
One at a time.
I'd like a third source.
Okay, do you have
Or
any
fourth source.
recommendations?
Or fourth
Because
source.
even if we filled those 5 positions, Counselor, we would still have $5,000 available. Those have been vacant. 4 of them have been vacant all year. We just had a 5th that became vacant not too long ago. I just
Yep.
wanted to point it out.
So what's your pleasure on item 8?
I mean, you could table it and see if they can come up with an alternative. If they can't, we could pull it out of committee. You know, I think we have to come up with the 15 grand. I'm in favor of spending the 15.
Could I-
It's just a question of if they don't come up with an alternative.
Could I make a friendly suggestion, just having seen how things
Yeah.
sometimes work? you could potentially, obviously, report it out without a recommendation. And if we were able to come to the next council meeting with that alternate source, then it wouldn't be left in committee. Then you could just return it to the auditor at that point, and we could have a different source, and you could vote on it on the floor that night. Because I hear
Okay.
all the arguments, and I think we could come up. We'll figure out something, or maybe we can talk. We'll figure it out.
So do I hear a motion on item 8 that we don't make a recommendation on item 8?
Motion to pass without a recommendation.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
And I'll check with Counselor Givner when she gets back.
Oh.
Okay.
Motion to
Okay.
pass item 11.
Okay.
Second?
And item 11 is order 5,000 out-of-state travel from firefighters.
Sam?
Same issue,
Second.
so,
All those in favor?
Aye.
And that one we're passing, correct?
correct.
Okay. All right. Don't go anywhere because I had, my notes said 3, 10, and 12.
Right.
Before 4, 8, and 11 came up. So I've been told to combine 3, 10, and 12. So number 3 is ordered that, a motion to take up item 3.
Second.
And this is for $11,235 from personnel assistant to professional services, $11,235. Motion to take it off the table for discussion.
So moved.
We just happen to have the personnel director here.
I had a second cup of coffee just to hang with you all night. I'm here. So that was some savings from my personnel line that was vacant earlier in the fiscal year. We have Bank W consultants who have been supporting us with the efficiencies that we're creating, which one day will be independent of them, but right now they're doing a really good job at showing us what we need. What, to Councilor Jordane's point, tracking things. We're now in the stage of doing PAFs instead of emailing all these PAFs for changes. We're doing them internally, so there's a workflow, and we're not having to track papers or file them somewhere and, go to multiple people. And the changes are being made in one click of a button and then approved. That's one of the small things we're doing right now, but, and the reason why they're packaged with the other ones, sorry, clearly not used to these mics, is because we have a lot more payroll work to do, which Rory might be able to speak to.
Yeah, I think what's, so we have these consultants. They were first, we first were able to leverage some ARPA funds to be able to help us with this. And the reason for that is, we already talked about the length and years of this upgrade, and once we got in there, we found a lot of the data sets needed to be updated. Workflows that Kelly mentioned, permissions, role-based security. There were just a lot of things that hadn't been kept up with, and that's really no fault of anybody because we didn't even know, right? Like, we just thought, oh, it's Munis, we could plug along, this is it. Until we were forced to do this upgrade because the system we were on was end of life. And also went to the training and really started investing more of our collective time as employees. There's a lot of work to onboard new modules. So, there's even some of the things we've talked about building these efficiencies. We have to take the time to make sure that the correct data is in there, that the system is talking between departments the right way. And so we went out and said, okay, we need some help with this. How do other communities deal with this? And we found that a lot of communities contract directly with Tyler, with the provider, at $200 an hour, $250 an hour. Thank you. Yeah. And so that would be paying somebody from the software provider, essentially, to do this work with us. And we didn't pay that, but we've also done some of that implementation work with them, and we just found it was not nearly as helpful as we had expected it to be because they have a cookie cutter approach, and the number of technicians they have working for them now that ever transitioned somebody from this old system to this new system. So we were able to find a firm that's on state contract, and the consultants we work with are collectively have about 80 years of Tyler experience between the three of them within their respective units or areas of expertise. They've worked with municipalities all over the country to upgrade their HR or HCM, human capital management systems, payroll systems, purchasing systems, AP, AR, billing, income tax, abatements, everything that you can imagine that we do day-to-day business in City Hall. They've helped build out these systems, and we're getting them at a pretty good rate. So where we're at right now is we want to be able to continue using them, looking at it as an investment. And all three of us had some leftover money and some personnel lines. And so we thought rather than, go anywhere else, let's try to move some of that money into our professional services line to continue this work with the firm that we've been working with. And any three of us can talk more in depth about what those projects look like within our departments, but that is the reason why we're in front of you this evening.
What's the firm again?
The company that we're using that they come to us from, it's called Bank W Staffing.
Bank W Staffing?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
And just a quick question too that I have, just to go back to Munis a little bit. Is any department head resisting using Munis? Because years ago, Councilor Jordan may remember that there were, when I was on the council before, there were actually department heads that refused to do it.
So now we can audit. Now actually they can't resist.
Good.
Because we'll know if they've signed in or not. So when we say, hey, guys, everybody in the pool, we got to get this work done, and then we have now trained ourselves on how to do this report, we can say, well, those 3 people didn't log in. So we're able to make a phone call. The mayor has actually, to that end, sent out 2 different directives to all city departments to say you must participate in this. And this is something that we talk about at our quarterly department head meetings. And it is something that it's really exciting because right now, just the time entry piece, every department head, when we talk about the payroll, every department head, rather than maybe having some paper or maybe, they're all salary in my department, I don't really need to do timesheets. Every single department head, up to including the mayor for the department heads themselves, have to, whether it's on their phone or on their computer, enter in the time that they work every day. It gets submitted to their supervisor, which in most cases is their department head. The department head has to review that time, verify it, sign off on it digitally, and it automatically works its way through workflow. And that's the same thing for all time in attendance. So whether it's paid time off, vacation time, the accrual banks to actually know, this is another thing that I know Councilor Jardine and really the entire finance committee has talked about, is when people are buying back time when they separate from service, are those numbers accurate? Were they being accrued correctly? No longer are we doing it with calculator and pen and paper. Or maybe if we were really good and sharp, doing it with Excel. Right. Now Kelly's team has actually built out in the system the accrual tables for every collective bargaining unit in the city. And so in real time, we know if employee X worked 40 hours this week, it automatically calculates the time. So if we're in a situation where there's a termination or there's a buyout, whatever it is, we now have a system that can show us in real time exactly what our liability is, where we've never had that before. We could probably spend the next 3 hours just going on and on about all the exciting things that are coming down the pike, but there was a little resistance at first, but now everybody's in it, and really, we're at the point now where the police department has reached out. More officers want to be able to have access to this, so now we're working with our IT department and the police IT department to be able to provide access to even more officers, to be able to get a better handle of grant budgets, everything within their control and their purview. So it's really exciting.
Okay, if I can just for one moment, Matthew Peterson, are you here for the DPW?
Yes.
Okay. So, okay, we'll get right back to you. Thanks. We're going to have to take that. Is that for the in-state travel?
No, I'm here about the funds for electric openers for the police department doors.
Oh, that's item 6.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, so I just want to, Counselor Jordan, I think you had a question? And then the other thing I wanted to mention was, if we're taking up 3, 10, and 12, are you going to be saying the same things about each one of these?
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought you guys took them all up as a package. Yeah, sorry.
We're going to do it separately, but
Got it.
I wanted to know if what you're saying is going to go for
I
all.
can say it all again if you want,
Yeah,
but
no, no, no.
I'll be here all night.
No. Okay, Counselor Jordan.
Yes, just a couple questions. So I notice, and I know in particular, for purchasing, there's a mention of retraining on the new process is also stated in here, and I wanted to kind of touch on that too. So usually we bring in the consultants, they're doing a lot of work, and I'm sure they're doing a lot of software work or installs and doing, but that retraining piece, I would like to touch on that. And then if you could talk about how you're gonna, this isn't gonna be, like, once they get it set up, again, train the trainers, so that we can avoid these type of, because this is a significant investment here, right? Between these three, this is in excess of $50,000. So it's a significant investment, which we knew we had to do these things for Munis, so certainly not unexpected. But talk about the retraining so you guys will feel comfortable, you and your teams as the leaders in your department, that your teams will feel comfortable using this when they walk away, when they have these consultants there. And then 2, could you each talk about, Kelly's already touched on it for her department, but for purchasing and for treasury, can you mention why you have these excesses in the case of treasury and payroll specialists and admin? Because one of the things, particularly in your department, we've been watching is, are we filling the jobs? Are we getting full use so that we don't have to use outside consultants to do the daily grind work? If you could touch on that at some point, Rory. And then, Jamie, if you could touch on why you have $25,000 in your assistant CPO salary line. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, I'm so glad you said about the training, because on the tip of my tongue was, that's what I was going to talk about, and then you brought it up. So I've been with the city a little over 3 years now, and I just want to point out that when I came here, I sat with Anna, who many of you remember, who's no longer with us. She actually passed away from COVID while she was working for the city. I sat with her. I went in 3 times my first week, and she taught me how to enter requisitions in Munis. Currently, well, previously, because currently we have it, we had no type of training documentation. So if a new hire started, we didn't have this is how to enter requisitions. This is what your department does in Munis, and here's step-by-step guide. So part of what we're doing, going to the Munis conference, and part of what the consultant's been doing with Kelly, building the tables, all those things, we don't know how to do that because none of us have ever had Munis training. Or documentation. We all got trained by whoever our predecessor or their predecessor. So the limited knowledge that people have is only what's been getting passed for 30 years, to Rory's first point. So what we're doing as part of this upgrade is documentation. So to your point, we're not asking you guys in 5 years again, hey, counselors, we need another, you know what I'm saying?
right.
Exactly, because part of this project is documentation. So when we onboard electronically now, we also have onboarding documents. This is what your department does in Munis, and here are the guides. And then, we have the leaders, to your point, that have the additional support because we've gone to the trainings and we've kind of grasped the knowledge and we've honed in on the processes. So we're leaders to build on the manuals that are presented. But we never had that until this group started this Munis upgrade, because we realized when we're bringing in new employees, not having anything to give them was a problem.
If I might, just for the record, since we didn't read item 10 yet, and that's what you're talking about, item 10, order that $25,000 as followed from Assistant Chief Procurement Officer, $25,000 to Professional Services, $25,000. Is that the same professional services that Rory was
Correct.
talking about? Okay, all right. And does anybody else have any questions
Could
on
you just
item
touch on the
10?
question of why you have an extra 25 in your assistant CPO budget?
So the assistant CPO, the 25 is because we have still not filled the position, but I want you to know, kind of to piggyback on your point earlier, Mike, with this 25,000, if I was to hire a CPO tomorrow, an assistant CPO, I could hire him or her at $70,000 for the rest of the year. So why I asked for the 25,000, it's because of the vacancy of the position. I did put into context that if not even the perfect applicant, if an applicant came in tomorrow that we would interview and we wanted to hire them, we could hire them at a salary of $70,000. There is enough left in that budget line till the end of the fiscal year. So we did look at future needs of the department as well.
Okay, thank you.
And then, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you. If
We
you-
are actively interviewing, so for
Okay,
that position.
okay. So if we went with 3, 10, and 12, we'll vote on item 3?
Yep.
Okay, motion to vote on item 3, that's the 11,235 to professional services, which Bank W staffing is professional services.
Motion to approve?
All those in favor? Aye, so moved. Then we're going to go to item 10, which is what Jamie was talking about, for the 25,000. A motion to approve that transfer.
Yep, second.
All those in favor? Aye, so moved. And then we have number 12, which is ordered that 20,000 as follows: administrative assistant, 11,000, payroll specialist, 9,000 for professional services, 20,000. Motion, take it off the table for discussion.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
And I'm assuming it's still Bank W.
Yeah, it's the same.
Okay.
Could Rory touch on why the 11 and the
I can.
9 are left over, and how are things going in your department?
Yeah, so
in terms of
Yeah.
keeping a full team and,
Yep.
and all of that?
Yep.
And that's from the treasurer's?
Treasurer's
Correct.
department,
Yep,
yeah.
they're both.
Thank
So I easily can explain. At both of the positions had been filled at a full complement of staff. I'll put it that way. At a full complement of staff. One person had to go out on an extended medical leave and didn't, have time, so they weren't being paid out during that time.
Okay.
That person, unfortunately, they were amazing, and I really wish they were still around, and I hope someday they're able to come back. There's a very good reason, and it ends up being a happy reason why they're no longer with us, with the city. But that's why. That's why there's such a large chunk there, because we were essentially having that position, we couldn't post for that position because of the circumstances. We've since posted for it, and we're interviewing that position, and we're going to have a second round of interview with some folks.
And you have enough money to finish
Correct.
the year?
Same thing. We all did the
Okay.
same analysis.
All right.
And then same thing with the payroll specialist, just backwards. That position wasn't filled for the first 3.5 months of the fiscal year.
Okay.
And that's why we have a surplus
Okay.
in that line. And it's all the same reasons that have already been discussed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns?
Motion to approve.
Second? All those in favor? Aye. Okay, I think we're done with you 3. Could you talk into,
I keep doing that. I think I have to say, I can support Matt Peterson's item also.
okay, we can take that up. I don't know where Sergeant Zerhide went, but he's not there, so we'll take up that order. That's item 6, you said?
Motion to go to item 6?
All those in favor? Aye. And this is from capital stabilization, 25,000 to HPD capital outlay building improvements, 25,000. Move we take it off the table for discussion.
So moved.
Okay, and Matt Peterson is here about that.
I am.
Matt, go ahead.
Yes. Yes, so we've obtained 3 quotations on how much it will cost. Forgive me, I'm toggling around through 2 different screens here. For furnishing and installing electric operators, also known as electric openers, on 2 panels of the police station main entry doors. So that there's inner and outer double doors. This would put electric operators on 1 panel one outer panel and one inner panel, or slab. Slab is more what I'm used to. Those doors are just wide enough that it meets ADA requirements to have just one of them open. The lowest quote for furnishing and installing the operators is from New England Door Closer for $7,635. Of course, there's always the caveat that if they run into unforeseen conditions, that it will cost more. There's also a quote, which I don't have a written one in front of me, but I remember, it is $9,100 from our on-call electrician to hook up the electricity to it. So the quote for furnishing and installing the operators does not include the line voltage electricity. So 16,800 is what those two add up to. The number 25,000 was chosen previously when we didn't have this lowest quote yet. I think the one we were looking at is now the highest. It was in the neighborhood of $15,000. And so we request 25,000 to do the project with the thinking that it's probably going to come in a few $1,000s under budget, please.
Matt, will that make the entrance to the police department handicap accessible?
Yes, that's the whole purpose. Forgive me, I didn't mean to talk over you. I'm sorry.
Beautiful. No, that's great. Kelly, did you have something else?
Yeah, so a member of our, of the Commission for Disabilities, discovered going into the police station that it wasn't handicap accessible. She has a wheelchair, and
I followed
I don't
the
know
order.
if you've ever, well, I'm sure everyone has gone in. The doors are pretty heavy, even
They are
for,
heavy.
you know, an able-bodied person. So I can't imagine opening it while trying to
Yeah.
get a wheelchair in there. Also, I was surprised because I think of the building as being new, but it was actually, 1997?
Yeah.
That's right.
I
97.
graduated in 96, so, yeah, so it's new, right?
Yeah.
No. So I was surprised that it wasn't handicap accessible. So, we had, Matt Peterson, I think Officer Borrego, Zerhide, they've all been on board with the Council for Disabilities on trying to make that happen. So, we're hoping that it's supported and it will be,
Yeah, I know
handicap
Lynn
accessible.
Haram's going to be exceptionally happy about
yes,
that.
yes, yeah.
Okay, anybody else have any questions?
Mike?
Yes, Councilor
just,
Jordan?
I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm all set. No, but Mike.
How much would that leave, does anybody know how much that leaves in capital stabilization?
Yeah, he gave a printout here. Just a minute. I can show you. It's item number 6, right? Let's see, 227,000 will be after this 25,000.
Okay, so that was my only question.
Okay.
Motion to approve?
All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Now we're really done with you guys.
Have a good night.
If you see,
Bye.
if you see Sergeant Zerhide out in the hall, could you tell him to come in? I don't know where he went. He was on Zoom. Yeah. Yeah, would you? Thank you. Okay.
All
so
set with
let's-
me, counselors?
Yes, thanks, Matthew. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Good night.
Okay, so what I can do while we're seeing if if Sergeant Zerhide, I have, do you want to take up Jake since he's waiting?
Yeah, sure. Jay, what do you have here? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
okay, let's see.
Yeah, let's go through
Number
that.
you are.
He's item 7, I believe.
7?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Item 7 is
You want to come in, Jay? or-
McGrath Smith order the city council review CPA committee recommendations and approve funding for FY '25 CPA projects. Sure. If you got enough for everybody, good.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's the same one we
That's
got.
it, yeah, okay.
Somebody just the other day was asking me about the YMCA. I was at the Y and they were asking about that, so I'm glad it's in there. Okay. Do you want to go through this, Jay, or does anybody have questions?
Yeah, if Jay could just kind of walk
Yeah.
through, like, how much was the total budget that they had to work with, and
Yeah.
why this? And I did have one question about the stained glass windows at City Hall.
Yeah. I could just kind of give a brief overview, and if there are any questions, certainly.
Sure.
I'm here for that. So our budget this year was just a touch over $696,000. That was what was submitted to City Council. We actually ended up getting a bit more than that. There was some, a bit more in state match and a little bit more in receipts. So that's higher. I can send a communication. I'm just waiting to confirm that exact number. But so we allocated an amount allotted amount for our admin budget, and then allocated the rest, which ended up being $645,000. The breakdown is here. The Flats Community Building down on Canal Street used to be the Portuguese American Club, $100,000.
Can you say a little bit about what you're doing in each of these?
Yeah,
ones?
yeah. So this is
The public, the public's listening.
absolutely, yeah. So this project is to upgrade the facade and the accessibility for this. One Holyoke is leading the project, and they're using the building already, but they're planning on using it for more community services. And it seems like it's becoming sort of a bit of a hub for the neighborhood, and I think we wanted to support that project. It's a historic project. For that, were there any particular questions about that one? So then the Lawrence School improvement was the second recommendation. That is for a retaining wall and for the chimney to be repointed. They had asked for $115,000. The CPA awarded them $50,000. The school department will have to work out the rest of that. But that was put forward by Sean Sheedy, who now works for the Holyoke Public Schools, used to work for the city of Holyoke. Our third project was the Glotech playground upgrade. The CPA had done a project, I'm not sure if anyone recalls. There is a path out there that's a really nice addition to the city, and we felt that this playground was both in need of an upgrade and would supplement that project well. And then Ward 5, I think, had felt that there hadn't been a lot of investment in Ward 5 from CPA funds, so I think that weighed a little bit into the calculus of the decision. But I thought it was a great project. That'll be for new playgrounds. It'll be similar to it'll be a different style playground, but similar in scale to the Mayor Field project. It'll be a playground and then a little place to sit, sort of at the entrance of the trails. So it'll be kind of a nice little package thing. Families can go out. There's a little playground.
Yeah.
The trails themselves are beautiful. I don't know if anyone's been through there, but it's very nice. The fourth recommendation was the YMCA pickleball court. We got a substantial amount of public feedback from that one.
Yeah.
That was a popular one. I don't think I had I knew of pickleball. I hadn't realized how incredibly popular it seemed to have become since
Yeah, apparently it is,
yeah, it seems fun. I was more of a racquetball guy back in the day, but maybe
Yeah.
I'll pick it up. But yeah, that was an interesting project. The way we looked at it is essentially it's almost like another city park. The public will have access to it, but the Y is taking on the responsibility of maintenance and of security. So I think that's kind of an interesting thing because the city gets the benefit of having it, but doesn't have the burden of it, like an ongoing cost, and we can invest the money and feel good about it being nice. And I think they'll also manage, just the popularity of it, and they'll be the ones they have a system in place to accept appointments and for reservations, and so folks, you don't have to be a Y member to be able to use it.
Yeah,
And
plus it's at the Y, that's a big deal.
It is right in the center of the city. So we thought that was a good project. That was for $130,000. Number 5 was kind of an interesting one. It's 150 East Dwight Street. It's a tiny house, also one Holyoke. It's all the way at the bottom of East Dwight, if you can picture it. It's almost at Water Street. It's so far down. And there's an empty lot that's been there for years. One Holyoke controls a lot, and this is a UMass engineering department designed tiny house. So it's efficient. and that award's for $50,000. The total cost is $117,000, which we thought was for square footage, and the fact that it's providing affordable housing was relatively affordable compared to some of the costs of the other affordable housing projects. In the past, we've given substantial money to big non-Holyoke based companies. This is one Holyoke. It's a smaller amount of money. There's a recent state law for accessible dwelling units that's passed, so we kind of expect there to be some of this type of work in the city, and we view this as almost like a test case where we can see what seems to work and kind of get a better sense of what the rules and regulations are and best practices, and we hope to share that. We're in contact with planning, and we hope to get in contact with ordinance as well. I think they're working on the issue, just to share the information that we learned from this project, assuming it goes forward. And then the sixth was the stained glass, recommended for $165. So it worked out. They had given us a breakdown of costs for the stained glass windows. The two big windows that are left that haven't been done were $150, and the consultant they needed was $20. We gave them $165. So and speculated that that's what the money's for those big windows to get finished, and
Two?
for the
Right.
two remaining big windows.
So the
there's-
whole project will be done.
No, there are still the smaller windows. I believe there are 3 of them, and I can give you the exact. I have some great information. I can send you pictures with the layout and cost projections. Even this evening, if you like, to finish it off. That would be another. I think they needed $250 total, so another $85,000 to put that off. But that was above our budget this year, so we speculated. We said we'll get the big ones done, and we'll see where we are next year, see if we can get that project wrapped up. But that was the thinking on the 6 projects from the committee. I'm just going to grab my water if that's all right.
Yeah,
and-
that's
but
okay.
I'd be happy to answer any
I
questions.
also want to welcome Counselor McGrath Smith. Jay just, I don't know what you heard yet, Meg, but Jay just went through all the projects, okay? And I think Counselor Jordan had a question about the stained glass windows, but he may have more. And anybody else who has questions?
Yeah, I don't, did Meg want to say anything first before
Meg?
we get into it, or?
Jay did a great job.
Okay.
Just here to support.
Okay,
Great. Can I start?
yes, go ahead.
Okay, great. So, just a phenomenal job on these projects. These are all great. The one like the Flats Community Building, it's being used as a community building, open access to the public. That's great because, again, I have had concerns, just being that we have to be extra careful when we're giving the CPA money to private organizations. This notion that fully accessible to the public, and I think one CDC there is absolutely meeting that standard, so that's great. Lawrence School, that's a no-brainer, that's great. Glue Tech is a continuation of a commitment that has already been made up there, which is phenomenal. The YMCA pickleball court is phenomenal. I know a lot of people, including my wife, will be thrilled to hear about that one. And because we definitely needed that. I know South Hadley over at Buttery Brook put in a bunch of new pickleball courts, and you can't get in there. I mean, it's just, they're so popular. And these will be very popular. As far as the stained glass windows, I want to come back to that. It looks like we need $85,000. The only one I will ask about is the tiny house. And I know that we have to do so much for quote unquote affordable housing. But on these, we got to be real careful because this is money that we're giving to one CDC. They're going to redevelop or build this ADU unit, but then this is not for someone to own, so this is going to be a rental.
Yep.
And even though we're supplying roughly 40 or 50% of the total project cost, they're collecting all the rent. So I guess my question is, if we're partners, and again, I'm thinking as a multiplier effect, right? So if the goal is to do additional of these, it's one thing to help seed it along, but shouldn't we receive back a proportionate share of the rent? off of the investment. So for example, we're making this, they're going to build this thing for 117. We pay 50, they pay 67. If we get a proportionate amount of the rent back, that would allow us to fund other ADU units going forward. Or are they making a commitment with the proceeds to do an accounting to the CPA committee where they're going to show how they're going to use the rent, what we advance them, right? Because we're paying. Are they going to dedicate to you that they're going to use those proceeds to do other projects and therefore create this stimulus effect on these lots? Or, I want to make sure that we're getting a good ROI on our 50,000, because otherwise what we've done is basically give CDC 50 grand to build an income stream for themselves. So we got to be careful that we're doing our due diligence. So could you touch on how we either have a business arrangement with one CDC, or how is that 50 going to be leveraged for other projects?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't had those specific conversations about a business arrangement.
Okay.
Certainly it'd be something that I'd be happy to discuss in detail. We could sit down and do so if you had some thoughts on that. But no, I mean, I think the benefit that we saw is, number one, it would be providing affordable housing to somebody, ideally somebody that's a Holyoke resident. I did ask that question in the committee, how the lottery would be chosen. It's open to everybody in the region, but they typically see a very heavy Holyoke concentration. So that'd be one benefit. And then I did note the lot has been empty for a number of years, so I think it'll be a cleaned up space. It'll be landscaped. The city will see the benefit in that sense. But yeah, I think it's a great question and a good conversation to have. Certainly, as you said, one tiny house is one thing, but if we're going to make this a system, and perhaps we will, I'm not sure that we will, but that would be a good conversation to have. And I'd have to admit that I haven't dug into that to the depth that I think it would require for tonight's conversation.
Is it going to pay property taxes?
Yes, that's the understanding. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know, Meg, do you have an opinion? I think you see where I'm going with my line of questioning on
Her
that.
hand's up too anyway, so
Oh,
perfect
good.
timing.
Perfect. Yeah, Meg, could you help on my point about, we're giving them this new income asset to one CDC. So the question is, how do we leverage our 50 to get our either proportionate share to build other units, or is there a longer term strategy on that?
Sure, through the chair to Councilor Jordan. So it was interesting talking both in the meeting and then afterwards. I met with Michael, and what's interesting is my initial pushback was, why are we building a tiny home on the lot instead of, say, property that might have 8 units on it or 10 units? Because I was thinking more in terms of scale. And really what came out of it was twofold. One is that there are some reasons for the lot itself, for why it's not easily developable. But the other thing is that by creating a tiny home with the garden is a huge part of this project. So yes, there's this tiny home with a private back, section of that yard, kind of just for that one little apartment around it. But then also there's a garden that will be a shared garden for the 2 buildings that are on either side. So it's a way of creating open space as well as new housing. So I think that was part of their strategy there, is to really increase the quality of life for the residents in that area. Alongside also creating a new opportunity for a different kind of rental unit. And I think they're very much looking for the guidance that comes out of the planning board, who's been taking on the ADUs as well as the tiny houses. And I think Aaron Vega has been interested in pursuing some funding through a grant in order to do a study around where these houses are best situated or not. But it's very much an experiment around how to use this land. It's also temporary. This is a tiny house that can be moved elsewhere if there's a better use for that land at some point down the road, if they do find a way to develop it into more housing than just for one family. So I did like that aspect of it. And of course, we're matching funding for what they're working with through UMass. So part of the value added is that there's a lot of matching funding here through CPA matching with UMass.
And what's our plan? Is there a commitment from the CPA board to come up with the remaining 85,000 that's needed for the stained glass windows? Because that is something that is just, you know, ubiquitously desirable by, I've never heard of anybody that's anti that. I just want to make sure that, is that something the vision is to get that adopted for the next go around?
I can't say officially, but I think that's the thought, is that,
Okay.
you know, next year, you know, there's a lot of moving parts, but I think that's the thought, as we can button it up next year.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that's the goal. I just
Yeah.
think it's going to be more complicated next year. Next year, we'll be looking at a budget a little bit over $400,000. So it'll really impact what we can do. So it also just depends on what other projects are being brought forward and which ones seem most like a priority. At least in the meantime, as much as we'd love, you know, all the stained glass windows to be done, they're safe, right? They've been created, and we can get to them, you know, one at a time or two at a time until they're done.
And if we approve this, could you have that conversation with One CDC about how we, you know, because I'm sure there's all kinds of documents being entered into as you're giving them these monies. And there's also supposed to be, by the way, anytime we give money, we've had prior legal opinions on this. There's supposed to be deed restrictions. There's supposed to be, if the property's ever used for some other purpose, we're supposed to be reversion of funds. I just want to make sure that we're following up. We don't have to do it for public projects, but we do for private projects. You know, just friendly reminder on all that guidance, you know, that if that's ever needed, that those protections are put in place. But I would appreciate if we could consider, as we're giving this seed money, if you will, how do we leverage and how do we get the rental income or our portion? Not that we're looking for the money back, but how do we leverage that into the next unit to create a multiplier effect? That's, I think, the game plan here.
Yeah, no, I think that's an excellent point, and perhaps I could share the info that I have with you, and we could have a conversation about how to move forward.
I appreciate both your work on this. Thank you.
Counselor Sullivan.
Yep. Thanks. Jay, was any study done, how much utilization does the existing playground that we're replacing at Glue-Tech Woods get?
It's hard to say. I mean, we did receive some feedback from the residents of the area who noted that they typically travel to other places in the city or to other cities for playgrounds because they felt that one was not up to standard. I mean, I went there with my kids. Honestly, it was, you know, it's not the greatest shape, but it's not, you know, I wouldn't say it's dangerous, but so it's hard to say if what the utilization would have been if it were nice. So to your point, no, there wasn't a study on that, but I think we expect that with the two projects there, that it'll be something that gets used quite a bit by the public. And I know Tom Reynolds and I have talked a lot about just, you know, the plan for Glue-Tech and how that might be used for baseball or soccer or other things, or cleaned up a little bit more, just to provide something on that side of the mountain. I think that was the feedback that we got from the residents, is they felt that their side of the mountain was being ignored and they wanted a park. And I thought that it weighed strongly on me, for sure.
Okay, but we have, I mean, right now, we really don't know how much it is utilized. So it's kind of a hope that with the improvements done on it, it'll see more traffic.
Yeah, I think the view was that there was a need, but that it wasn't getting utilized because it wasn't up to the level of what folks saw it should be. I think that was the perspective that we took on it.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
I think the theory being, if you own an Edsel, you don't drive it too much, but if you own an Edsel, you don't drive it too much, but if you own a Corvette, you might drive it more often. So with the improvement will come the volume.
And then I was thinking the same thing as far as If you build it, they will come.
There you
like
go.
The
Like a casino.
movie, yeah.
Yes,
The movie, the with the baseball.
Field of
Oh, yeah, Field of Dreams,
Yes,
right, yeah,
yes.
yeah. That's a good analogy, yeah. Motion to approve item 7.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you both very much.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Okay. Is there a Sergeant Zerhide in the house?
Oh, I see his name.
He's back.
Yes,
So-
yes,
oh,
I apologize.
No.
I deeply apologize. I thought this was spoke about earlier. That's why I signed off. I would have never left you guys prior to leaving if I didn't realize this. So I do apologize. I want
Yeah.
to get that out there.
No problem. We had other things to do, so we're all set. But anyways, we do have one for the Police Department. Order that in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A, the City Council hereby accepts the provisions of the Byrne State Crisis Intervention Program, $84,458.79, no match. Move we take it off the table for discussion.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Sergeant, tell us about this.
Yes, so this is actually an interesting one from the Office of Grants and Research, Massachusetts Grants and Research. We're going to partner with ROCA, which we've had strong ties with. We have them on other grants. This one is different, though. We'll be signing up 14 young adults for like the ROCA program. We will track them over the year and the steps that they're taking. And the things that they accomplish. We will have one officer that will meet with them bi-weekly. They'll do, ROCA does, they have, they're called circle times. They kind of, you're very open in allowing your feelings and what's occurring, kind of mentoring. It's a very much mentoring program. So we'll have one officer that's going to mentor these 14 individuals along with, so they'll be meeting with them on a weekly, bi-weekly basis, and then ROCA staff will be meeting with them daily. So they will receive all the services that we can afford them, whether it's driving school, getting a driver's license, an ID card, getting a job training, signing up for HCC. Now that some of the degrees there are they're free. If you don't have a degree, you can go back to school for an associate's degree. So we'll be signing up these 14 individuals for services through ROCA, and we have a member that will weekly or weekly will meet with them, kind of talk to them, mentor them, along with the ROCA staff. We're going to do it over a 1-year period and how that trial goes. This is funded with a no match grant. So that's what we're really hoping to do. We do a lot with ROCA and other agencies throughout the city. But the one thing that we notice is that we don't do the mentoring partnership. We don't do the follow-up, the continual touching of an individual weekly or bi-weekly. Sometimes it's monthly, sometimes it's bi-monthly or quarterly. So we're really hoping to see how is it going to look if we are interacting with these individuals on a more proactive basis, kind of set up.
Questions, anybody? Everybody know what ROCA is? Yeah. Okay. Questions?
Here's a copy of the.
Yeah, there's a lot to look through.
Yeah. Is this the, Sergeant, is this the first year we've had this, or is this something that we've had before?
No, this one is brand new. It is a new initiative. What I think the Office of Grants and Research is looking to do is to create this as a reoccurring one. We've had multiple meetings with them for the last 3 or 4 years where they're looking to establish this type of program. And we were in conversations with them when they're kind of developing it. And this is the first year that they're coming out with it as almost a pilot program. So we're getting in on it at the beginning level, and we're hoping to, if the council approves it, we are hoping to see how it will look where that there's a police officer interacting with these individuals more frequently, kind of offering that mentorship on top of the ROCA staff. And that's what we're really trying to gain. It's more of an impact within the community rather than once a month or once a quarter. And I will say this is not going to fund a full-time police officer. This won't take away an officer out off of their original duties. This will be an extra duty, but his time or his or her time on that extra duty will be paid for by this grant. So they will still be in their position full-time at the police department. This will be an added duty, and that added duty will be covered by the grant.
Okay, so in this situation, we won't have one less officer available, and therefore they're being funded by the grant, but they're creating an overtime requirement? There's not going to be any
Yep.
spin-off cost to the city that we're not seeing covered by this grant, correct? Because if someone's not available, I just want to make sure we're not doing that.
So you're hitting it. No, you're hitting on the head there. That's exactly right. What you're saying, that this position will not fund a full-time position. It will not take away from that person's duty. It's going to be an added duty where it would be overtime, but that overtime will be covered by this grant. So that officer who is assigned to this, that the chief chooses, will fully 100% have to do his or her duties at the police department. This will be outside of it, and that outside cost will be overtime, but that will be covered by the grant. So this will not come back on the city or the department in any way.
Okay.
And that's the way we kind of set it up. So we're not losing a body. We're not going to have to backfill a position. They're not going to be taking a day off to go do this. It is completely outside of their scope of their regular duties. It'll be an additional duty that they choose to accept, and they will be compensated with overtime for doing it, but that overtime will be paid for by the grant.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions?
Motion to
Clear?
approve?
Motion to approve. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you so much, Sergeant.
Thank you. I apologize for signing off earlier a little too soon, so I'm sorry.
That's okay, no problem. Appreciate it.
Motion to
Thank
go
you.
to item
I
number
was gonna say, I
9.
thought you
which
were going to adjourn. I said we have
Oh, no,
one
no,
more.
yeah, item 9.
One more.
Our last item.
Item number 9, ordered that they're hereby appropriated by transfer in the year 2025, $2,337.50 from substitute nurse auto, $1,500, auto allowance $837.50 to board members, Board of Health, $2337.50. Does everybody have a copy of this letter from Timothy Rivers about the transfer?
I do.
Okay, so
Go through.
he's unable to be here tonight, so I will read this for your consideration. Transfer of funds, Finance Committee. A transfer has been requested in the amount of $2337.50 due to an oversight of the Board of Health Chair's pay. Nicole Arnold was appointed in 2023. When the new payroll system was implemented, we began to be asked to review proof that the payroll is accurate. I noticed that Nicole Arnold was not listed on the proof. I brought this to personnel and the auditor's attention, and it was found that she never received the pay that she was entitled to. The city accountant gave us a dollar figure, and I was able to pull it from a different lines in the same account. The account that needs the transfer is Board Members 15101-151201. The line items that I asked to take this from are below. Substitute Nurse 15101-51203. With the current shared services, we have not yet to utilize any of the funding for this line item. There is currently a shared service nurse, Chicopee, Holyoke, and South Hadley, that can perform disease tracking in our public health nurses' absence. We will have this shared service agreement in future, and this line item can be defunded in the 2026 budget. Car allowance, 15101 to 51850. The animal control vehicle is now being used instead of the employee's personnel car, so we have a surplus of approximately $2,800. Animal control is no longer eligible for a stipend, and this amount will be eliminated from the 2026 budget. Thank you, Timothy Rivers, Board of Health Director. Move we take it off the table for discussion.
So moved.
Any, well, it says it all in here, so.
Yeah.
Do I hear a motion to
Motion to approve?
approve? All those in favor? Aye. Now,
Motion to adjourn.
all those in favor? Aye. Thank you, everybody.
All right, have a good night. Yep, bye-bye.
I have to show you something funny. I gotta turn this off.